You have been taught to believe money is earned. That is the first lie. Money is not a reward handed out by fairness. It is not a trophy for effort. It is not proof that you are a good person. Money is a signal, an output of power, perception, leverage, and timing. If money were simply the result of hard work, the people with the most collises would be the richest people on earth. If money were a reward for morality, the honest would always win. If money were a reward for intelligence, every genius would be wealthy. But your life has shown you the opposite. You've seen lazy people rise. You've seen decent people struggle. You've seen average people become rich while brilliant people stay broke. So what is happening? Machiavelli would say you are finally seeing reality instead of the bedtime story you were sold. That story was designed to keep you obedient. It keeps you working inside systems you don't control while calling it responsibility. It keeps you trading your life for safety while convincing you that safety is the goal. The darker truth is simpler. Money flows toward what society cannot easily ignore, not toward what society should reward. And what society cannot ignore is not effort, it's outcomes, it's scarcity, it's certainty, it's status, it's access, it's attention. That's why making money is not primarily an economic skill. It's a psychological skill. It's the ability to understand human incentives, fear, desire, pride, insecurity, and convenience. Then build something that fits the shape of those incentives. Most people refuse to study this because it feels uncomfortable. It forces you to accept what you've been trained to deny. Human beings do not behave like moral textbooks. They behave like animals wearing social masks. People want to feel safe. They want to feel chosen. They want to feel superior. They want relief. They want certainty. They want the easiest path with the highest payoff. They want to avoid pain while still looking virtuous. They want to win without admitting they want to win. And the person who understands these drives, without being controlled by them, develops an advantage that looks like luck from the outside. This is why money is dark psychology, because the true currency underneath money is not cash. It is control, control of attention, control of perception, control of distribution, control of systems, control of narrative, control of time. Machiavelli wrote for princes, not peasants. He did not write about how the world should be. He wrote about how power actually behaves. And in the modern world, money is one of the purest forms of power because it buys options. It buys time, it buys insulation, it buys access to rooms where decisions are made before they become headlines. So if you want to understand money, you have to stop asking, how do I work harder? And start asking, what game is being played? Because there are games, and you are either a player or a resource. The first game is the one that keeps most people trapped for life because it feels invisible. Game 1, perception. Value is not objective. The poor believe value is objective. They believe if they are skilled, useful, and hardworking, someone will recognize it and pay them fairly. That belief is comforting. It is also deadly. Value is not objective. Value is a hallucination created by perception, scarcity, and narrative. Water is essential, but it is cheap in many places. A diamond is mostly useless, yet it is expensive. The difference is not utility. The difference is story and scarcity. Machiavelli understood that people judge with their eyes before they judge with their hands. Most people see what you appear to be. Few experience what you truly are. Translate that into money, and you get the brutal rule: most buyers do not pay for your effort. They pay for the story they believe about your output. That's why two people can do the same work, and one gets paid 10 times more. One understands optics, the other worships fairness. If you want higher income, you must learn positioning, not lying. Positioning. You are not just a freelancer. You are a specialist. You are not just a marketer. You are a revenue operator. You are not just a designer. You are a conversion strategist. You are not just a coder. You are a system builder who removes failure. The frame changes the fee. This is where people get uncomfortable, because they were trained to believe money should arrive through humility. But humility does not protect you from being underpaid. It does not protect you from being replaced. It does not protect you from being used. The market rewards clarity, not modesty. And here's the psychological mechanism. People don't only buy what you do, they buy what your existence says about them. Premium choices make them feel smart, safe, and high status. Cheap choices make them feel anxious, even when they pretend they don't. So if you sell effort, you compete on price. If you sell certainty, you compete on status. And status is where money becomes aggressive. Title: The Dark Psychology of Making Money. Machiavelli. If perception is the first game, leverage is the second. And leverage is where the money starts behaving like power instead of income. Most people are trapped because their effort is linear. They trade hours for cash. That transaction feels normal because it's been normalized since childhood. Study hard, work hard, be responsible. Get paid, repeat. But linear effort has a ceiling, and the ceiling is your body. You can only sell so many hours in a day. Even if you raise your hourly rate, you are still capped. You are a higher paid laborer, not a sovereign player. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago through armies. A prince cannot conquer a kingdom by swinging a sword himself. He needs an army. He needs leverage, force that multiplies his will beyond his own hands. In modern life, leverage is what disconnects your input from your output. There are a few forms, but one matters more than ever: permissionless leverage. Code media products, systems. You build once, and it pays repeatedly. It doesn't sleep. It doesn't complain. It scales without asking for permission. Most people try to get rich by renting out their time. That is like trying to drain an ocean with a cup. You don't need a bigger cup. You need a different method. But here is the uncomfortable truth: leverage amplifies who you already are. If your judgment is weak, leverage turns you into a high-speed idiot. If your discipline is unstable, leverage turns you into a chaotic machine. If your ego is loud, leverage turns you into a public clown. So leverage forces you to confront your psychology. This is why many people avoid the wealth game. Not because they lack opportunity, but because they lack the inner traits required to handle the power that comes with leverage. Here are the 3 traits that decide whether leverage becomes freedom or becomes a trap. Trait 1: tolerating misunderstanding. If you need to be understood, you will always stay small, because anything that breaks the crowd's pattern will be misunderstood. When you charge more, they'll call you greedy. When you stop being available, they'll call you rude. When you build quietly, they'll call you secretive. When you refuse cheap work, they'll call you arrogant. These labels are not truth. They are defense mechanisms. People hate what reminds them of what they are not willing to do. So the first question is simple: can you handle being misread without shrinking? Because if you can't, you will constantly explain yourself back into mediocrity. Trait 2: using incentives without guilt. Money flows through incentives. People buy to reduce fear, to gain relief, to increase status, or to secure certainty. That's not cynicism. That's human nature. Naive people avoid studying incentives because it feels dark. They want the world to be fair, so they sell effort and hope someone notices. Meanwhile, strategic people design offers around what people actually pay for. A business pays for reduced risk or increased revenue. A client pays for time saved or pain removed. A market pays for outcomes at scale. If you cannot accept that people buy outcomes more than effort, you will undercharge forever. You will over-explain forever. You will resent money forever. So the second question is, can you shape your offer around incentives without feeling like a villain? Because influence is not evil. Unconscious influence is what makes you a victim. Trait 3: playing the long game while others chase dopamine. Most people don't fail because they're incapable. They fail because they're addicted to quick wins, quick validation, quick money, quick proof that they're progressing. Real wealth building is slow at first. It looks boring. It looks invisible. It looks like nothing is happening. That is why most people quit right before compounding begins. They jump to the next idea, the next trend, the next shortcut. They call it hustle, but it's just panic wearing a mask. Machiavelli studied the fall of powers. Empires rot from impatience, softness, and loss of discipline. The same happens to individuals. They sabotage stability because boredom feels like death. They need excitement, and excitement is expensive. So the third question is, can you build without applause? Because the poor broadcast, but the wealthy signal. Broadcasting is talking about your plans until you get a dopamine hit and lose the hunger to execute. Signaling is letting results speak. If you can tolerate being misunderstood, design around incentives, and build through boredom, leverage becomes your escape route. Title: The Dark Psychology of Making Money. Machiavelli. Now we move from inner traits to outer tactics. Because the world doesn't pay you for what you know. It pays you for what your knowledge produces, and money at the tactical level follows a few cold rules. Rule 1E: the market pays for rarity, not effort. Most people try to make more money by doing more hours, more tasks, more clients, more hustle. That's the strategy of the obedient. But the real driver of income is replaceability. The market pays you based on how hard you are to replace, and being hard to replace is not about being good at everything. It's about being rare in a specific way. A combination of skills that solves an expensive problem. Generic skills create generic pay. Sharp outcomes create premium pay. So the first move is to stop collecting skills like a hobby and start building a profile that makes you dangerous in one lane. Choose problems where the cost of failure is high: lost money, lost time, lost reputation, or legal and operational risk. When the pain is expensive, the solution becomes valuable. This is why the highest paid people often don't look like they work the hardest. They look like they know where the leverage is. They solve problems that have consequences. Rule 20: scarcity is a multiplier. Availability is a discount. Your behavior is a pricing signal. If you are always reachable, you look cheap. If you reply instantly, you look idle. If you over-explain, you look insecure. If you discount quickly, you look hungry. This is not about arrogance. It's about structure. Machiavelli advised that a prince should not be seen too often, because familiarity makes him common. In modern money terms, stop acting like access to you is unlimited. Set boundaries. Control response windows. Stop replying from anxiety. Stop making yourself a convenience store. Scarcity is not just supply. Scarcity is posture, and people do not only pay for the work, they pay for what it means to have you. Rule 3: sell certainty, not effort. This is the rule that changes everything. Buyers don't pay for your sweat. They pay for their peace of mind. They pay to remove uncertainty. If you price by hours, you teach clients you are labor. If you price by outcomes, you teach clients you are an investment. So stop saying, "I'll work hard. Everyone works hard." Start saying, "Here's the process. Here's the timeline. Here's the outcome." That voice is what people pay for, because it makes them relax, and relaxation is expensive. This is why premium clients often prefer the more expensive option, even when it doesn't make logical sense. The premium option signals fewer surprises. Fewer surprises is safety. Safety is a purchase. Rule 40: control the frame. Negotiation is psychological war. Most people lose negotiations before they speak because they accept the buyer's frame. The buyer frame says, prove yourself, justify your price, compete with others, discount fast, explain everything. If you accept that frame, you become the defendant. A Machiavellian negotiator refuses the defendant role. They become the selector. They ask questions. They qualify the buyer. They set standards. They define what success looks like. They mention what they don't tolerate. They calmly imply that not everyone is a fit. This flips the emotional geometry. Now the buyer wants your approval. Now they fear losing access. Now they respect the boundary. The simplest power shift in negotiation is this: behave like you are interviewing them, not begging them, not rudely, calmly. High standards create high status. High status creates pricing power. Rule 50: build quietly. Broadcasting kills execution. The poor broadcast, the wealthy signal. Broadcasting is telling everyone what you plan to do. It gives you dopamine and false progress. It invites opinions, envy, doubt, and distractions. Signaling is letting results speak. Machiavelli valued concealment because concealment protects intention. If people don't know what you're building, they can't sabotage it. They can't mock it early. They can't infect you with hesitation. So build in silence. Let the outcome be the only noise you make. If these rules feel cold, it's because you've been trained to confuse warmth with weakness. Warmth is fine, but warmth without boundaries is a donation. Money is the scoreboard of boundaries. There is a point where learning the money game becomes dangerous. Not because it doesn't work, but because once you understand incentives and perception, you can cross a line without noticing. This is where Machiavelli is misunderstood. People treat Machiavelli like a manual for cruelty, but Machiavelli is not primarily teaching evil, he is teaching reality. He describes how power behaves, not how morality wishes it behaved. And once you see reality clearly, you gain an advantage. The question becomes, what kind of person do you become with that advantage? So here is the final layer, strategy without corruption. The ethics line, understand incentives, don't create unnecessary harm. Influence is not automatically evil. Influence is what happens anytime you shape behavior. A parent influences a child away from danger. A teacher influences attention toward learning. A business influences customers toward a decision. A leader influences a team toward a goal. The problem is not influence. The problem is unconscious influence and dishonest influence. Unconscious influence makes you naive. Naive people are resources for smarter players. Dishonest influence makes you rich briefly and destroyed eventually. So the clean rule is this: use dark psychology to understand human behavior, but build value that leaves people stronger or at least relieved after they pay. Because the easiest money is often the dirtiest money. And dirty money always comes with a future bill. Sometimes the bill is legal. Sometimes it's reputational. Sometimes it's internal. Your own mind becomes unstable because you know what you did. Long-term wealth is built on trust, results, and repeatable delivery. If your offer is weak, fix it. If your outcomes are inconsistent, tighten your process. If you cannot deliver certainty, do not sell certainty. That's the line. Now, after ethics, there is another layer that matters more than your first million. The principle that keeps you rich: avoid ruin. Making money is one skill. Keeping money is another. The poor try to get rich fast. The rich try to get rich slow and stay rich forever. Because wealth is an infinite game. There is no final bell where you win. There is only staying alive in the game long enough for compounding to work. And the only thing that truly removes you from the game is ruin. Ruin comes in predictable forms. You take risks you don't understand, you leverage too hard because you want speed, you inflate your lifestyle before stability, you confuse income with security, you let ego make decisions, you chase excitement instead of systems. Machiavelli studied empires. Empires fall when they stop guarding the foundation, when comfort makes them careless, when they think the rules don't apply to them. So your permanent rule is simple: protect the base. Be extremely safe with most of your resources. Take calculated risks only with what you can afford to lose. Build redundancy. Keep optionality. Don't gamble your survival for a faster timeline. Because the market is patient and brutal, it doesn't destroy you in one dramatic moment. It punishes repeated arrogance until you collapse. Now we come to the most common trap that ruins people after they get money: status addiction. Money does not only buy comfort, it buys social meaning. People respect you more, they listen more, doors open faster. You get treated as if you're more intelligent than you were yesterday. And if you are not disciplined, you become addicted to that feeling. You start buying applause. You finance validation. You spend to look rich instead of building what keeps you rich. That's how people die financially. Machiavelli would say, appear strong, but never become dependent on appearances. If your identity requires constant proof, you are not powerful, you are fragile. So the wealthy mind stays private. It stays structured. It stays boring on purpose. It does not need to announce every move. It does not need to win every conversation. It does not need to show every purchase. It lets results speak. Now, if you want this to be more than entertainment, you need action. So here is the 7-day challenge that installs this operating system into your behavior. For 7 days, stop doing the behaviors that signal low power. Stop over explaining your price. State it and stop talking. Stop replying instantly. Create response windows. Stop discounting quickly. If you discount, attach conditions. Stop accepting the buyer frame. Ask questions that qualify them. Stop broadcasting your plans. Build quietly. Stop competing on effort. Compete on outcomes. Stop seeking approval from people who don't pay you. Watch what happens. You will feel discomfort because your nervous system is addicted to approval. That discomfort is withdrawal. It is proof you are changing. Some people will call you arrogant. Let them. Some clients will disappear. Good, they were parasites. Some buyers will respect you more. That's the point. You are not here to be comfortable. You are here to be free. Final conclusion. Money is not just a number. It's a position in a system, a position created by leverage, scarcity, perception, and time. So stop trying to be deserving. Start becoming unignorable. Stop asking permission to be valuable. Build the skill, build the offer, build the leverage, guard the base, and move quietly. The loud compete, the calm compound. That is the dark psychology of making money.